Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Global News Scholars. I am your host, John Smid. Tonight, we're going to forego politics and the weather to focus on something far more interesting. Paper. That's right, folks. This evening, we're going to look at the myth that Shakespeare simply wasn't interested in printing his plays. Joining us now is our literary correspondent, Nathan Smid, live from the 1650s.
That's right, John. I'm standing here where Shakespeare's plays were allegedly first printed. And let me tell you, the idea Shakespeare didn't care about publishing his plays is a story full of myths and misconceptions. People believe Shakespeare didn't care about printing his plays because most writers then focused on the performance as opposed to leaving a written legacy. The myth has lasted so long because it fits the idea of Shakespeare as a humble artist more interested in his craft than his fame.
Why might someone think that Shakespeare was interested in printing his plays?
Well, John, before the famous First Folio was printed in 1623, 18 of Shakespeare's plays were printed as small books known as quartos. They were cheap, tiny, and easily damaged. Very few exist to this day. In fact, we just saw one of Shakespeare's actors walking away with one of the quartos. Let's roll the clip.
So shabby. This will never do.
Thanks, Nathan. So, did Shakespeare authorize the printing of these quartos?
Evidence suggests that the quartos were printed by his acting company, but it does not clearly state whether Shakespeare authorized it. However, it is a fair assumption to make, considering it was his company.
Interesting. So, if Shakespeare's company printed these quartos, does this mean the myth is false and that Shakespeare did indeed want his plays to be printed?
Not exactly. The quartos were likely made for use within the company and not for broad distribution, as their material was not as durable as later publications such as the First Folio.
The First Folio, Nathan. Tell us more about that.
According to the Folger Shakespeare Library, following Shakespeare's death, two of his friends, John Hemminge and Henry Condell, organized his plays into comedies, histories, and tragedies, and printed them as a book, a format that's meant to last. This is what we know today as the First Folio. Earlier today, I asked John and Henry about the First Folio and what they would say to William if he were still alive. Here's what they said.
This is for you, Billy. Much love, bruh.
So, to recap then, the myth states that Shakespeare did not care about his plays being printed, but from what you're telling us, his friends did. So, is the myth true or false?
Good question, John. There isn't sufficient evidence of Shakespeare expressing interest in printing his plays, at least for broad distribution, which is why this myth has stuck around so long. The quartos were not made to last, and true publications of his works did not happen until after his death. Based on this, I believe the myth is true.
One final question. What is the key takeaway from this, for you and for our audience?
John, before I started this investigation, I assumed that Shakespeare was a wealthy playwright who sought fame and fortune through his playwriting talents. But now I see he was a humble man who wrote plays purely out of joy. As for the audience, I think they can find inspiration from Shakespeare's story. Stay true to your passion, and success will come.
Thanks, Nathan. So there you have it, folks. From GNS, I'm John Smid. Stay scholarly, my friends.